Hello everyone and welcome to an incredible game from yesterday's Aimchess preliminaries. We have a game between Nodirbek, Abdusattorov and Gukesh, and as you know, Nodirbek is the World Rapid champion and this is a rapid time format, so this is definitely right up his alley. And he lost one game. He had a perfect first day. He won 3 games and 1 draw, but then he started the second day by a loss against Vidit, and Gukesh is still undefeated, and he in the last 2 games he defeated Anish Giri and Hari Krishna. So it's quite the matchup, it's quite the game. You guys will enjoy it. Let's check it out. So Nodirbek has the white pieces and he opens with pawn to d4. And also this is a great opportunity for Gukesh to get back at Nodirbek for beating him at the Olympiad. So d4, we have knight to f6, c4, sorry about that. We have e6 and now knight to f3, not going for knight to c3, allowing the Nimzo Indian. We have d5, knight to c3 and bishop to b4. So the Ragozin defense, we have c captures, and now bishop to f4. And as the knight is not pinned, you can start the attack right away. Knight to e4, now putting pressure on the c3 knight, and now rook to a1. We have knight to c6 and now knight to d2, and here the fun really starts. Pawn to g5. Now it looks really crazy, but it's not new. It has been played before many times. For example, Magnus Carlsen defeated Alexander Grishuk in this position in the St. Louis Blitz in 2020. It was an online one due to COVID, where Magnus played bishop to e3, but here, and also the bishop to g3 is a known move, but here we have knight d captures on e4 by Nodirbek, and it is now as of move 9 that we have a completely new game. So let's see how Gukesh deals with this. G captures on f4, he goes after the bishop. We have a3, now trying to get captures and captures, but now d captures on e4. And okay, a captures on b3, and now pawn to e3, starting the attack right away. F captures on e3, queen to h4 with check, g3, and the g captures, f captures on g3. And now, looking at this, it's very hard to imagine that white would go voluntarily into this, but this is what Abdusattorov prepared. King to d2. Now trying to get the king to the queen side, Gukesh does not allow it. Bishop to f5. Now look at this. Bishop guarding all of these squares. The queen sort of guarding e1, because if the king ever lands there, it's going to get crazy. And here we have knight to b5, going after that c7 pawn. But here Abdusattorov missed something, and he missed something very important. So feel free to pause the video and try to find what he missed while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on not going after the pawn. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's bishop to e4. This is what he missed, and there is no coming back from bishop to e4. The problem is, if you play rook to g1, then just g captures on h2. You are not saving this rook. That's not an option. And if you go knight captures on c7, which is the only option pretty much, then king e7, and after you capture the rook, now rook to d8. You are not in a rush to capture this rook, and the white has to be very careful. Knight d4 captures, the queen hangs, anything is possible here. And if queen e1, preventing the capture, you just play bishop captures on h1. And if now queen captures on g3, queen captures, h captures, rook captures on a8, you are up a full piece. As you can see, black has a knight, white doesn't. So that was possible. But Abdusattorov managed to trick Gukesh, and Gukesh played rook to d8 right away. He did not go for this bishop to e4 move first. Bishop to g2 now Abdusattorov no longer allows it, and now queen to g5. Interestingly, if Gukesh wants, he can force a draw here with knight captures on d4. It's unstoppable. Just rook captures on d4, knight captures, queen captures, the king cannot go to c2, you have to play king e1, and now queen f2 check, and we have a nice repetition here. So if Gukesh wanted, he could have forced a draw here, but he wants the fight. He plays queen to g5, and who wouldn't? I mean, look at that, king on d2. Now knight captures on c7 with check, king to f8, and now pawn to d5. Abdusattorov just advancing his pawns like his king is not on d2. We have queen to e7, and now knight back to b5. Queen captures on b4 check, now forking the knight, and knight back to c3. And now it's a very tricky position. You should play something like rook g8 or g captures on h2, but Gukesh plays queen captures on b2, and while it's a nice move, it does allow Abdusattorov to defend. King to e1, and now knight to b4. Not defend completely, this is still winning for Gukesh, but not after knight to b4. Here you have to play rook to g8, and you are still fighting for the win. But after knight to b4, he gives him an opportunity. Although he doesn't take it, queen to d2 sort of defends as... after knight to c2 check, you free up the d1 square for the king. Here it's very, very tricky. Abdusattorov plays e4, but I mean, what a position. Look at this, knight to d3 check. Now if he captures on d3, queen to, not e2, queen to f2 is checkmate. So, of course, queen captures on d3. We have queen captures on c1 with check. The pawn prevents the king from coming to f2. So, knight to d1, and now bishop back to g6. But now just queen to d4. A very nice centralizing move by Abdusattorov. And all of a sudden, it's not as clear. I mean, black is better, but the two pawns are very, very strong. And the rook still has to find a way into the game. So, king to g8. Defending the rook, and now h captures on g3. We have queen to g5, and now king to f2, defending the g3 pawn, rook to e8, putting pressure on e4, and knight to e3 now. We have queen to e5, putting more pressure on e4, offering a queen trade, and Abdusattorov just grabs the pawn on a7. King to g7, and now rook to h4. Adding another defender here. Also, you can shift the rook to f4 if needed, but now b5. Gukesh starts advancing the passed pawn. Queen to c5, we have rook to b8, putting the rook behind the passed pawn, and now knight to g4. A very unpleasant move, as the f6 and h6 squares are now also guarded by the knight, and if the black queen ever leaves this diagonal, a move like queen to d4 or queen to c3 check will be deadly. So, queen to b2, and now we have pawn to e5, cutting off the queen's reach over this diagonal. Pawn to h5, now trying to relocate the knight so you can capture on e5, but now Abdusattorov finds queen to e7. Point being that if the knight is captured, queen f6 check, and after the king moves, you just get checkmated. So after queen e7, rook to b6 is played, adding a defender across the 6th rank, but now pawn to d6. Pawn to e6 looks scary, but it's actually fine for black. If queen d4 check, e3, you can just play queen e1, you don't care. If captures, just rook to f8, black is perfectly fine here. But after d6, it is much, much harder to play this, because now queen to d4 check, knight to e3, and now queen to c5, not allowing the pawn to move. The pawn is on e5, so f6 square is guarded. So queen to f6 with check, king to g8, and now bishop to d5 with the threat of queen captures on g6. So rook to h6, stopping this, but now just rook captures on h5. The absolute strongest move. This is a forced checkmate. Bishop captures, now queen captures on h6, and it was in this position on move 40 that Gukesh, I believe, lost on time, but even if he didn't, even if he resigned, it's a forced checkmate. There's nothing you can do. There's no saving the bishop, and also there are more important things than the bishop, whatever you do. Even if you play knight g4, because the knight is pinned, still just queen g4 check. Now if king f8, queen captures on f7 is checkmate, so you go here. Now you don't even capture the bishop, you just play bishop captures on f7. And there's no defense against queen h6 checkmate and queen to g8 checkmate. So really a wild game. Abdusattorov decided to mix it up after this g5 move. He prepared this knight captures on e4. He was saving it for who knows how long. It was now against Gukesh that he employed it, and it seems it was much harder to deal with this than previously thought. Even though, like I said, previously just bishop to e3 and bishop to g3 are played. These are the only moves that the engine says that give advantage to white. But knight captures on e4, the engine deems as an immediate equalizer for black. But of course, if you play it like an engine, Abdusattorov prepared it well, and Gukesh did not find the best way out of the deep dark forest that followed. That's the game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Very nicely done by Abdusattorov, who is the leader even after the second day. So he was the leader after the first day. Now he leads after the second day. Magnus caught him at some point, but it didn't take, as Abdusattorov just continued crushing everyone. And now he's the leader, and followed by Mamedyarov. And he has 17 points, Mamedyarov and Magnus with 16 points. Then with 15, we have Young Krzysztof Duda, Arjun Ergaisi and Gukesh, Vincent Keimer and Anish Giri with 12 points. So those are the top 8. And as these are the preliminaries, the top 8 go ahead. But there's still one more day, so we'll see what happens. If the others can catch up, or will these guys stay in the top 8. That's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Francis Sayre, Ashish Jayaraman, Duncan Winkle, Women Life Freedom, and Lord of Chess for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of this wonderful event and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.